Well, hello everyone, it's Nicola here. I've got a real treat for you today. I'm going to intersperse my tales of how my week's been and what I've been doing to move my life along in with a cooking show. I thought you might enjoy that. Basically, it's been an okay week. It's been a weird week in lots of different ways. Work's gone very well. I got very organised at the beginning of the week and wrote all my blog posts on Monday morning. Everything else flowed from that. So, the podcast gets recorded and then goes out. And also the newsletter gets written. I managed to go live once, or was that last week or the week before last? I'm not sure. On Facebook, but it's not as easy as it seems. It really isn't. So this time I tried to go live on Facebook and it didn't work very well because you go to put your key in and your URL, your streaming URL, and then when you hit start, you get taken to an error page, which throws me every single time. But actually, I assumed that the live was still working, and it turned out it wasn't at all because I hadn't gone to the next page and clicked, I don't know, the next page. There wasn't next page, is there, when you get to an error page? Anyway, I was supposed to have gone back to the page where Facebook was and click start, because until you click start, the live doesn't go live. But what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go through the process in a minute and I'm going to make notes of what happens, and then I'm going to try and get to the point where I'm actually live, because I do want to do my lives from Zoom, because I want this blurred background. I don't want people seeing my background. People judge, and I don't want them doing that, especially not for work stuff. The live before that didn't work because of the lighting. So I've had a few technical issues, but I've had a few technical wins as well. Can't hear all that motorbike going past. Motorbikes are really noisy, aren't they? Sometimes I think, is someone paying someone to go around our neighbourhood, which is generally quite quiet, with a motorbike? Really noisy one. Yeah, so I managed to work out a tricky technical thing where I can send traffic to one of my sales pages and it diverts half of the traffic to a second sales page. And I was really pleased with that because it's free. I say it's free. It's free if you're using the software I'm using to make my websites. But you don't want to know about all this work stuff. I'm waffling on about work to avoid telling you that I haven't really moved my life on at all. Okay, well, I thought I'd show you a bit of cooking tonight. So I'm going to be making a sort of a cheap old mince dish, but I'm going to make it a bit more I'm going to be making it a bit more exciting by turning it in some sort of Asian flavour. So the first thing I want to do is fry off the mince and some onions, of course, but we'll do the mince first. So I'm going to use light olive oil because I've given up using seed oils completely. Dollop of that. And because it's going to be an Asian flavour, I'm going to be putting in some sesame oil. And then while the beef mince is frying off, I'm going to be cutting up the onions and garlic. It's quite a lot more beef mince than I would normally do because the butcher put it into, I think they're kilograms. I did ask him to do 500 grams. But we're going to do that next time. So, I need to fry it all off. And this is the first job that any sous chef learns in the kitchen. Sous chef? Commis chef, I think they are, when they first start. Steve, of course, was a top chef before he became a website designer. And he says the first most boring job that anyone gets given in the kitchen, how to fry off mince properly. Find the garlic, but my son's staying in his girlfriend at the moment and things just go missing, so I'll be using some spring onions at the end as a garnish. I might as well chop those at the same time. And there's a secret ingredient you need to watch to find out what that is, which makes all the difference when you're cooking anything to do with meat. So I've got the onion that's going to go in the actual mince to cook. I've got the spring onion chopped here, which will be for garnish. Can't find any garlic. I'm going to be using some green and yellow peppers, probably just green actually. I'm very keen on keeping colour schemes and also keeping things, what's the word I'm looking for, authentic. So for example, I won't be putting things in Italian food that wouldn't normally go in them. Ditto, I'm now sort of Asian flavours. We won't put anything in that's not Asian at all, Asian flavoured at all. So you just roughly turn the mince until it all goes brown and try and break it up into smaller pieces as you go. Not very attractive mince, so I'm going to put in some herbs because I don't really like the smell of smelling mince. I'm just going to put in some rosemary. And what I often do is I put half of the vegetables in at the beginning to give it flavour, and then put the other half in later on to keep the what's the word I'm looking for? Crunch. That's it. So I'll add this right at the end. I'll add some peas right at the end, and I'm probably going to chop up some mushrooms to go in early doors because I like the flavour that mushrooms give everything. Can't see the chopping board, but I've pretty much done there now. So what you're looking for is for it start to go brown, and as you turn it in shape, you'll start to see the brown on the back. Constantly trying to be breaking up the big lumps. Imagine doing this in a restaurant for hours on end. God. What you're trying to do as well is let the moisture evaporate so it won't fry if there's too much moisture in it. Stock cubes. Now obviously in the Far East they have proper stock cooked with bones and things, but I'm just going to use your old OXO cubes. Now I'm going to pull this over to one side. To give the onions and peppers a bit of space, put a little extra bit of oil in. Oh, I just realised I might have some garlic paste in the top of the fridge. Always have some of this in your fridge. Garlic paste. Lasts for ages, and if you run out of garlic or someone steals it, just adds that little garlicky touch to a dish. I'm putting quite a generous amount in there because it's quite a lot of meat. Secret ingredient coming out now. So this is miso paste, and I was watching Gareth, who runs a top restaurant in Wales. His name escapes me. Probably can't pronounce it anyway. And he says if ever you're doing beef or steak or anything like that, if you rub a spoonful of miso paste on top when you're frying your steak, oh my god, he says it's just delicious. And he said you can also put it into mince, so that's what I'm going to do. I'm just going to put a good dessert spoonful in on top of the mince. And of course when I then put the water on top, it'll all melt in and cook together. And I've got to say, it adds a depth of flavour that's really very nice. I've also got gochujang, which is like a tomato paste. It's a red pepper and tomato paste, and it's again from the Far East, but I find it stains everything terribly. So I've sort of stopped using it. There's some tomatoes, but I'll decide that at the end. Honestly, it's such an easy-going dish, this. If you're just sick of chili con carne or spaghetti bolognese, then you just serve it with white rice at the end. It's really very nice. If people in your family like Asian flavours, then this is a nice, cheap alternative to spaghetti bolognese. Now, the other thing I'm going to put in this is some salt and some sugar, just a little bit. What you're aiming for is lots of different flavours. Salt, sharp, sweet, sour. Then add some water and put it all together. Squidging up your miso paste at the same time. Okay, so that's pretty much it for now. What I'm going to do is cook it for at least half an hour now. Let it slowly cook with the lid on. And now I'm going to come back and taste it. And I'm going to, right at the end, I'll add the extra vegetables to give a bit of crunch while I'm cooking the rice. At least half an hour, so let's put the timer on. And this is when I go and sit and watch my Portuguese homesteaders. I have been looking at camper vans versus what they called motorhomes, and I've decided they're all incredibly expensive. I'm not quite brave enough. Well, I'm not at all DIY enough to be able to do what my son's doing. Nelson, he's doing up his own van at the moment, but he's got somewhere to park it. Because that's the other thing about where I'm living at the moment. There's nowhere to park anything. You have to park your car in the streets and then walk home, which is pretty much the only drawback about this place, apart from the fact it does tend to get a bit of damp in the winter, but it's all right as long as you keep it wiped down with bleach. Yeah, I've been looking at them. I mean, I suppose if I was absolutely desperate, I'd buy one, and then a cheap one and a motorhome rather than a camper van. I don't like the idea. I'm quite claustrophobic. I don't like the idea of being confined quite so closely as a camper van. And I think a motorhome would probably have a better AC system on it anyway. So I've been looking at those and, sort of having a little fancy about living in a motorhome and whether I could drive one and whether it would get around the streets of Greece. I think it would. Lots of Scandies do it, so why not me?
So I've just come back out because I went and sat down and I thought to myself, I don't know what makes this brown, this thing. And it's not got to be brown like Mince, it's got to be dark brown. And I suddenly remembered that I hadn't put anything Asian to make it brown. So what I'm going to do is, soy sauce is one of the things, and then sometimes I have this other stuff, sriracha, no. It's all about creating depth of flavour. And lots of soy sauce, because that makes it brown as well. So yeah, my brain is a bit fried, and I thought cooking would be a good thing. Cooking's definitely always a good thing to take you away from the computer and bring you back into the real world. I'm cheating a bit, of course, by talking to you, but I'm not actually going to do any editing, so that's okay. And I'm having a nice can of Trip. And have you come across this yet? It's non-alcoholic, CBD infused. This one's blood orange rosemary. It's absolutely delicious, slightly sparkling, no added anything. It's very natural. And I don't know if it's completely psychological, but it makes me feel calm when I drink one. And so it keeps me away from the glasses of white wine, which I used to have when I was cooking. But I don't do that during the week at all anymore. So, back to my homesteaders.
What else have I been doing? I was making my bed earlier. I just had a shower and washed my hair, as you can see. And I was making my bed and I was thinking, is there any point to make this bed? Because I'm going to get back in it later. And then I realised it's always much nicer for me to get into a bed that's been made and with pillows that have all been plumped up. They soon go squashy again, but it's nicer to get into a plumped up pillow made bed. And I've also got 4 or 5 pillows on the bed that go on after it's made to make it look more sumptuous. And I was thinking, what is the point of these? It's like I've got a really nice duvet cover. Why do I then put pillows on? And I know I started doing it when I lived with my daughter, and she always likes lots of pillows on her bed. And it does look very American and very sumptuous. And I just thought, but you never actually lie on them, do you? You just take them straight off again when you're going to bed. What is the point of that? I just catch myself with these weird thoughts sometimes. Talking of weird thoughts, I've got a very old friend called Neil who I worked with and worked for, and he's lived in Portugal for about 10 years, 12 years. And he and his wife Tash are just moving to Spain. They're moving to a city in Spain. And I said, well, what's going on? Are you bored already? And he said, we're moving on. So I thought, that's fair enough. And then literally the same week, a very old friend of mine, Philippa, Philippa's an old friend to the point she was pretty much there when Phoebe was conceived. Well, not in the same room, but near enough. And she was definitely nearly there when Phoebe was born, because I was out having a picnic in Holland Park with Philippa when my first pain started. And she was the person who drove us to the hospital. She looked after Phoebe when Nelson was being born, but the night Phoebe was born, she just took us to the hospital. And she got lost and took us through this very dodgy housing estate, which was a bit scary. We all lived in Notting Hill together, and we had a great time. It was Notting Hill Carnival, and we lovely summers, not like this one we're having this year. And then she went off to live in Exeter, Devon. Is that Devon? And she went off down there with her husband and her kids, and I never really saw her again since, apart from once or twice when she came back up to Brighton to see her mum. Anyway, same week, Neil tells me he's moving to the city in Spain. Philippa tells me she's moving to the city in Spain. Same city. Really weird. And she sent it with a picture of us two looking very young and very happy and very excited. And I'll put it up on the screen, and you can see. And oh my God, it cast me right back. I mean, I must have been about Very, very early 30s, late 20s, very early 30s. Although I look much younger, as you'll see. It's really quite poignant when you see pictures of yourself like that, because even though I've felt fat all the time when I was younger, and now I am fat, but I'm losing weight slowly, I always felt fat. I never felt attractive enough. Philippa was very glamorous and very outgoing, but I imagine she had the same kind of insecurities as I did. And it just made me feel quite, not sad, exactly, poignant's probably the right word. Because you don't know, youth is wasted on the young, isn't it? You don't know how, you don't know how people are feeling on the inside, as to what they're projecting on the outside. I mean, was I really happy that day? It was Notting Hill Carnival by the looks of it, so I was probably having a good time. Anyway, so Philippa's coming up to Brighton, and I'm pretty sure we're not going to be on the same page politically. Not that I've ever been a political person, but these last 4 years have made me a lot more interested in it. And I know that she has been making films for a company that does things for charities and NGOs and things like that. So I'm not sure, but I'm going to have to force myself, because otherwise I'm going to have no friends. I'm going to have to force myself not to ask about things I don't want to know about, and not to inflict my views on her or ask her questions that I probably know the answer to and don't want to know the answer to. But if I carry on like that, I'm not going to have any friends. And if I can put up with it with my family, which I largely do because I love them, then I can put up with it with old friends, surely. So anyway, I woke up at 4:45 in the morning, the day after she sent this picture to me, and I had this massive, strong feeling. I sort of woke up with it. It was like, it's what woke me up. I kept dreaming about Philippa and Neil and introducing them. And Neil's got a wife. It's not like I'm trying to, do anything like that. But I just know they'd all get on. And if they're all going to be in the same city together and they're all striking out on a new sort of social life, they might as well combine forces and divide and conquer the nightlife in this city they're going to. I just had this really I thought, I'll do that when I wake up, but I could not get back to sleep again. I just could not. So eventually about 6 o'clock, I got up and I thought, shall I sit down at the computer, put my lenses in, clean my teeth, sit down at the computer? Because I knew I'd have to introduce them. I knew I'd have to type stuff about her to send to him and type stuff about him to send to her. And I thought, no, if I sit at the computer and I have a coffee, I will not get up again till lunchtime. So I'm going to get in the shower first and wash my hair and do all that stuff first. So I did all that, and then I sat down and introduced them. It was still only about 6:30 by then. And they were both delighted to be introduced to each other. And even though it was the day Philippa was moving, she managed to, I hooked them up in a WhatsApp group. I couldn't rest until I'd done it. It was really bizarre. It was like I had this really strong instinct that they needed to meet each other, whether that's for work or just friends. They've both got daughters about the same age, so that that'll be nice too. But I just don't know where that instinct came from. But I've always acted on instinct and intuition like that, and I've had very strong intuitions throughout my life about I need to do things, or I never get intuition about what not to do. Interestingly, I always get intuitions about what I should do. I think lying on your deathbed, you only regret the things you didn't do rather than the things you did do. It was just really strange. The whole experience was really strange for me, because I just knew that I had to do this. And once I'd done it, I could settle down and crack on with my day. But very odd. And then, of course, I was absolutely knackered towards the end of the afternoon, because I've been awake since 4:45, unable to get this idea out of my head. And I've just been filling up my my little soy sauce bottle with my big soy sauce bottle. And the reason I've got this is because I'm buying everything more in bulk now. I'm heeding the warnings that we're heading towards food shortages, and we certainly are with this weather right now. So that'll be the fresh fruit in the autumn, and winter is going to be in short supply. And I think that it's going to get steadily worse on things like supply chain, especially if the financial world goes to pot, which everybody's saying it's going to. So I started to buy everything in bulk now, and especially the things I wouldn't want to be without. I could live on rice and soy sauce for an awful long time, and so I don't want to run out of soy sauce or rice.
on that topic, I'm going to show you my foolproof rice recipe. I've just boiled some filtered water over there. And rice. Okay, let's talk about quantities. Basically, I used to get HelloFresh and they said that 175 grams? Moles? What are these things? Moles. 175 moles is enough for 2 people, and it wasn't ever. So what I tend to do now is I do 200 moles for 2 people, and if I want some for leftover for lunch the next day, because that's going to be 3 portions at least, if not 4. So I'm going to put some in the freezer. I'll probably have some for lunch tomorrow, and so I want some rice leftover so I don't have to cook it fresh. So I'll probably do 200, perhaps 250, and then you round it up. So if you're going to do 200 ml of rice, you do 300 ml of water. So if I want to do 300 ml of rice, I'll do 400 ml of water, and you'll see why it doesn't really matter, and you don't have to be that exact in a minute. So let's get the rice. I buy in big bulk bags, organic rice, basmati. I don't want to buy the old rubbish, so I don't like plastic in it. So that's 200 ml. I think a mole is equal to a mug. I'm trying to put it in there. So I put that in the saucepan, and put the saucepan on, and then I'm going to put the 300 ml of water in there, and bring it up to the boil as quickly as possible. I'm putting a lid on it. And that's it, basically. You know, because it's going to come to the boil very quickly, as soon as it does, within a minute or so, I'm going to put the timer on for 6 minutes. I'm going to turn it down so it's still boiling quite aggressively, but then I'm going to wait. I'm going to time it for 6 minutes, then I'm going to come and turn it off. And they say to turn it off and put it onto a cold hob, but I find that doesn't really work. So what I do is I turn it off and leave it on a hot hob as it's cooling down, and then the steam from the water that's left in there cooks the rice absolutely perfectly, and you end up with dry, fluffy basmati rice every single time. It's like a miracle, second only to my perfect hard-boiled eggs recipe, which I'll share with you sometime. This is still going. I'm going to put this is for garnish, the spring onions, you can't see them. Spring onions for garnish. I'm going to put some peas and some chopped up green peppers in at the very last minute so they stay green, because I want lots of greenery and freshness and crunch to cut through the richness of the meat.
So today is the day after President Trump's assassination. Of course, the whole social media has been buzzing with all of it and all the different things. I don't know what I think about Trump. I don't know whether he's part of the deep state or whether he's a Freemason, or apparently there's some sign that he's the chosen one. At the age of 80, he's a bit old, isn't he? I don't know, it's a bit odd. And the very odd thing is that he was heard, there was a BBC video, and you could see the cameramen going like that, as if to say, cut the feed. And then you could hear him talking while they were trying to get him off the stage. And he said about 5 or 6 times, "Where are my shoes? Get my shoes." Bit odd. Why didn't he have his shoes on? Very odd. And then someone was circulating an Illuminati game card where it said the chosen one would have blood on his ear and on his right foot. And I just thought, oh, that's very strange. So I'm just parking that there. I'm just recording that with you just to make note of it in case I forget. It was all very strange. But of course, the big one is 15th of July is coming up. Now, if you're a follower of Cliff High, and I am, because he runs data scraping through, he has done for a long time. He data scrapes social media, and he takes what people are saying. It's not as easy for him now since they all started censoring what people are allowed to say, but you know, it doesn't spread as far. The language doesn't spread as far. But he's pretty convinced something big's going to happen at about, very specific, 1:45 a.m. on either Monday, the 15th of July, or Tuesday, the 16th of July. Now, I suppose it depends what time zone you're in, because it'll be about 1:05, about 6:45 to 8:45 Tuesday morning for us in England, because we're ahead. And he never says whether it's PST or EST. I think he's on the West Coast, so he would be PST. It's the big one, apparently. It's either going to be aliens or a religious experience for a lot of people, and it's all going to be enhanced by EMF radiation. So the people who actually see this thing, like the whole Northern Lights scam recently, where they were testing their blue beam capabilities and it wasn't Northern Lights at all. Because you can't ever see the Northern Lights as far south as people were seeing the Northern Lights. So that was a load of old rubbish. This could be blue beam combined with EMF radiation to make people feel something quite intensely, because apparently it stimulates the pineal gland, and that makes people have real convictions about things. So we'll see, won't we? And now my worry is the kids are driving back from their festival on the 15th of July. Hopefully they'll be safely home before all that kicks off. And funny things you worry about, isn't it? I don't worry about the end of the world, but I do worry about whether my kids are local to me when it happens. I'm starting to sound like a raving lunatic, so I'm going to stop now.
Okay, so I've literally come back at 6 minutes, turned it off. It sat there for another 6 minutes. I'm going to show you the result. And I'm going to take the lid off. Still very hot, so don't worry about it getting cold. And I'm just fluffing it up now. And you can see it's absolutely perfect. Perfect basmati rice. I'm just going to take the lid off. Tricky old lid, this one, it drips everywhere. And I'm just going to literally stir in that. I'm going to stir in some of the peas in. Another thing I'll be stocking up on, oh hang on, you're all squint there. I'll be stocking up on, because peas fill the freezer very nicely. Always put them in a bag, because they do tend to run all over the place. And I'm literally just going to put in some peas. I'm not going to cook them, I'm just going to stir it all in so they melt and that the green peppers get warmer. There's a good lump of oyster there, but a minute or so I reckon. I'll give you a final shot of the plate before I eat it. I'm hungry now.
Have I managed to go out this week? Yeah, I went to the bins once. No, I did. I went to Worthing, our local town, for an errand, and I went out to get some coffee another time. So I have been out a few times. The weather's been pretty good just over the weekend. We'll see if the old plains and the clouds roll back in again for tomorrow. And if this week's been grim, it's been dark grey, it's been filthy black cloud everywhere, it's been raining every day. It hasn't been great at all. There was only one time during the week when we got any kind of sunset, when the clouds rolled back a bit. But as soon as they did, of course, you could see the white lines behind them, which means that the next day was going to be grim. And sure enough, it was. But they've been kind enough to give us a nice sunny weekend this weekend. Although when you don't know it's going to be sunny, it's very hard to plan anything, isn't it? At least I could go out on the balcony and water the plants, my poor little wizened tomato plants. So a weird week. Hopefully next week will be better. And if nothing happens on the 15th, then that's fine too, although I wouldn't mind seeing an alien before I die. I'm certainly not going to believe in it if it's a religious experience, that's for sure. Hope you have a great week, and I'll speak to you next week.